Hi, I'm Eric Rhodes from Fine Art Connoisseur, and today we're interviewing a legend in this industry, George Stern from George Stern Fine Art.
Well, I started in business, George Stern Fine Arts, around 1970, I would say about 1972, 1973, and my gallery's been specializing in early California art since its inception, and that's how I really got started. My family's been in the art business. My father was an art dealer, and so we grew up around paintings, although I have two other brothers that are both in the art world. My brother Louis, who has a gallery, and my brother Jean, who's the director of the Irvine Museum. So we all grew up in an art family, but we never really had a family business, so to speak. We all went into different directions. I went to law school and became an attorney after graduating undergraduate at UCLA. And when I graduated from high school, I started to get interested in buying and selling art. So I started to go around to the local antique shops, and what money I'd saved up from odd jobs and gas stations and things like that I had, I just started buying art. And at that time, I was lucky enough to be interested in the early California, just discovering it, and my affinity for the area, having grown up here, even though I wasn't born here. I found art that was affordable and art that I liked, and I started to buy and collected, and eventually just networked and met people, and slowly it just grew. And eventually I had a business. I really put myself through undergraduate school and through law school. And when I graduated law school and passed the bar, the California bar, I decided, do I want to be an attorney or an art dealer? And at that time I had a pretty good art business. So I opted to go the route that I thought was going to be, that was going to make me happier. So that's why I went into the art business. And luckily I got into a field that was very affordable, and these were artists that were active in the late 19th, early 20th century, and they in essence had been forgotten. And so I'm lucky enough to be part of the movement of the rediscovery of these painters. I think growing up in it and just being around paintings and just by just immersion and by osmosis of being around my father buying art and seeing all the beautiful art. He dealt in Old Master and 19th century European art. So we had a chance to see some really wonderful paintings that came by. He would go once or twice a year, go to France and spend time there and buy paintings and import them back to the United States. You know, I don't have a single aspect of the art world that I really admire. In my field, I'm lucky enough to really meet some highly educated and very successful people, so they're very impressive in that sense. So, I mean, I see collectors and what they've been able to amass, and I respect that. But then again, I also respect some of the people that have written books, especially like my brother Jean, that's done some great things with research, and also, once again, my brother Louis, who's published some really great books through his gallery and created a great interest in people like Alfredo Ramos Martinez. So I admire my brothers very much, but there isn't one particular thing like that either an artist or art world or something in the art world that I admire. I think for me, I was one of the founders of the Fine Art Dealers Association, and I was the first president of the group. And to see from its inception how it's grown and how associated with this exposition, how it's grown as definitely a national fine art association, and becoming an international fine art association. Yeah, it's really become something that being a member of FADA has become something that's been very important and highly respected. And for me, it's a really important part of my life because I was there from the beginning. And I'd like to think that I was instrumental in getting it going and developing it. I think for me, I've always taught myself to, not to regret things that have gone by, to try to make the best decisions I can and let things happen. But for me, I think if I had something to do over with, over again. It was probably back when I first, early part of my career in 1977, the Los Angeles County Museum had this big deaccession sale where they sold a lot of their early California holdings. And unfortunately, I didn't have the money to buy. And things were very inexpensive at the time, but I was a law student, and I didn't have the funds to buy it. I think that that's one of the regrets. I wish that I was able to. There was many, many great paintings. And it's not so much that they've increased in value and I could have made money. It's just the quality of the paintings, and it would have been great to have them associated with our gallery. Probably, well, we were just, my wife and I were just in Paris, and we had a chance. I really went, every time I go to Paris, I'm going to all the museums because it's such a wonderful city, as you know. And we went to the Musée d'Orsay, but it was raining, and the weather was bad, and we stayed. I went to see a particular show, Fritz Hodler, who was a Swiss painter. I'm sorry, Ferdinand Hodler, and I wanted to go back, and I've never spent the appropriate amount of time really going to the museums in France and Paris, and I would probably like to do that. I think if I could do that, and I will do that at some point. I think as far as the art, from the period that that encompasses what we specialize in, I think what we're looking at right now is really the post world, well, between the 1920s and 30s modernists that worked in California, and also the modernists and Figaro painters that worked after World War II in California. I think that especially Southern California, there's been a big interest in Northern California Bay Area Figaro painters, but there really hasn't been that interest in the Southern group now, and it's just starting. And I think that's a great area to look at, and that's something I'm keeping an eye on. Well, I think I would look at what I mentioned earlier. I would look at especially what was going on in art right after World War II, the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. It was a period where a lot of artists, especially in the West Coast, became abstract expressionists, and then they got away from that, became realist or representational artists, and there's a lot of rediscovery of that group, especially in Southern California. I think that's an interesting area where one could really buy some quality paintings at affordable prices.